Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, what would happen if your mobile phone killed you?
We are tonight's entertainment.
I would rather watch Beautician and the Beast.
People don't forget.
And here we go.
Made for movies.
This is the Made for Movies podcast. I am your co-host, Eric Russo, and with me, as always, is my other co-host, Mr. One and Only, Aaron Wolf. How we doing today on this Monday?
It is a Monday. I'll give it that much for what it's worth.
Last I checked, it is a Monday.
A date which will live in infamy, as we're about to talk about.
Yes. So we have quite the episode lined up for you. A little box office update, top 5 stories as always. Very fun Why Is This Happening news story update that Wolf's super excited to talk about. And we're going to do Loki episode 3 recap. But before we get to that, as has been a tradition on this podcast, we are going to look back in history. Today is June 28th. There's a lot of movies that came out on June 28th. I sent Wolf the list, and he decided to pick one that is among his most favorite movies ever made. Wolf, why don't you tell us a little bit about this movie?
Let's give it up for one Brandon Routh, which me saying that right now, I don't think that absolutely anyone would be able to pick him out of a crowd if they saw him right now besides you and me.
Is that Dean Cain?
It's pretty close to Dean Cain. Superman Returns, 2005. Was that 16 years ago?
Something like that, yeah.
Pretty bad movie, if I do say so myself. Was released on June 28th of that year. A date which will live in infamy as one of the worst movies. It also is supposed to be a continuation of Superman 4, A Quest for Peace. Little known fact about that. It's supposed to be all the same storyline and everything. Turns into one of the biggest dumpster fires of a movie that's ever been made. And at this point might even be a Hall of Shame inductee for future reference. But a pretty terrible movie and a way to ruin Superman for someone who was a lifelong fan of Superman all the way until that point.
Who's a better Lex Luthor, Kevin Spacey or Jesse Eisenberg?
I would say Kevin Spacey, just for the fact that he is older and generally more in line with a Gene Hackman-esque performance of Lex Luthor. All that said, Kevin Spacey's a dirtbag and a loser and should not be given any praise for anything, but he is better than Eisenberg. It's just as far as the overall character goes, because I've seen Jesse Eisenberg play that exact character about 15 other times in other movies, so he's not really going out on a limb for Lex there. But Kevin Spacey is by far the brightest point in that movie, and that's not saying much because, again, it's just terrible. And basically... pretty gross. He does hook up with a 90-year-old dying woman just to get her fortune. So that's the type of character we're looking at. And basically she alludes to the fact that he did stuff to her. And that's where I'll leave it. But that's pretty much how the movie kicks off. So, yeah, you're right. You're right in the middle of it, right when it gets going. It's a pretty terrible day. I
actually have not seen this movie. At least it's possible I saw it when it came out, but I have no recollection of seeing it. I remember the trailer was just super uninteresting and boring and just did not catch my attention. And yeah, Superman's never really been one of my favorite on-screen superheroes. I like the character and I like, him in comic books and other things. I just feel like in movies they have never really done a particularly good job of nailing it. I know the first couple for when they came out are pretty well regarded. I've seen them. They're okay for me. But yeah, this movie, I have heard really terrible things from you, so I've always avoided it. But
Keep avoiding it.
I know Superman 4 is one of your all favorites, so I will be watching that at some point, hopefully.
Absolutely. You got to check it out.
But let's move into our always fun box office update. The remake of Point Break, Part 9, Fast and the Furious 9, the Fast Saga, #1 at the box office with $70 million at the U.S. box office, the biggest opening since 2019's Rise of Skywalker. So quite some time. And in second place, we have A Quiet Place 2 with $6.2 million. Hitman's Wife Bodyguard in third place with $4.8 million. Peter Rabbit 2, fourth place with $4.85 million, and Cruella rounding out the top five, $3.7 million. Not too many surprises here. Wolf, how do you feel about the Fast 9 movie once again reclaiming the throne of number one movie at the box office?
Not surprised in the least. It always happens this way with every Fast movie, and globally, it's going to make $1 billion, this one movie, I guarantee. So just continuing the trend that we knew it would. It's not simultaneously streaming anywhere. It's only available in theaters as well, which is a nice touch. As, again, we get back to a more normal way of doing things, these numbers should only get better and better. Glad to see A Quiet Place 2 still hanging in there, making $6 million a week.
Yeah.
I think if they continue that steadily for another month or so, they'll probably make a lot of money for that movie.
Yeah, it looks like they've already made a pretty good amount just because that movie only cost $60 million to make, where Fast 9 probably cost, I would imagine that it cost over $200 million, and they also marketed this movie twice. They marketed it last year.
Yes.
Before it came out, then the pandemic shut everything down. Then they had to remarket it this year. So I imagine that they need this movie to make a lot of money. So
I'm guessing $300 million at the minimum is what it's cost them to do all of this.
Yeah, easily.
Big budget, and we don't even know if space is included in this. We never know. Could be. We'll find out pretty soon here. Watch it soon.
I'm going to see it today. I'm not too excited about it, which is probably a good thing. And then we will review it next Monday. So that should be fun to talk about. Might have a special guest on if we can work it out. We'll give you guys those details later. But let's move in. Any final thoughts on Fast 9?
Nope. Looking forward to seeing it myself.
Sweet. Top 5 stories of the week. We're going to count them down. Not too much going on this week, but we did get a lot of trailers. Start with the fifth story of the week. It comes to us from Disney. Disney has signed Scarlett Johansson to produce and star in a Tower of Terror movie. No other details have been given other than it will not follow the Twilight Zone's Tower of Terror episode, which is what the ride is based on. I don't know if you've ever been on it, but they play the episode as you're going through. Wolf, have you ever been on the ride in Disney World or Disneyland? And what other ride would you like to see made into a movie?
So this is one where I need to do a little bit more research. I've never ridden this ride. I've not been to either Disney
You're not missing
spot.
much.
I just heard it's a 20-story drop in the darkness. Is that right? Pretty
more or less. A lot of it's more of the build-up. You know, you're actually riding through on an elevator, like through corridors and haunted house, and then it eventually takes you to the actual drop of the elevator. Pretty interesting. I don't know how Scarlett Johansson fits into this. That has me intrigued.
Yes. And I'm for some reason I'm picturing the scene from Zombieland at the end when they are attached to that one ride where it kind of goes up and down, and the
That's
zombies
pretty much
are climbing
what it is.
Is that going to be the movie? It's just Scarlett Johansson sitting
I
in
hope
the chair?
there's no zombies. It is quite possible Scarlett Johansson did die in Avengers Endgame. Maybe she is the ghost of Black Widow now running this old hotel and taking people through and dropping them in an elevator. We shall see, as usual. Any rides that you have been on that you would like to see made into a movie? Could be anything.
I think I've been on the Superman roller coaster before. There's already some content out there on Superman, as we
One
know,
or two.
including one from this day in history. All I'm thinking about right now is like Coney Island in Brooklyn. They got the Cyclone.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been a really good Cyclone movie since Twister that's come out.
Vin Diesel could
maybe
star in
like
that.
Oh, I think he is the Twister, actually. He plays that character pretty well. But yeah, that's really I don't know too many rides anymore. I'm going to have to hit up Cedar Point and see what's going on these days. But,
yeah, we'll have to write a screenplay as we go and see what we can figure out. But let's move on. Top 4 stories now. We move into the number 4 spot, one that I'm pretty excited about. Halloween Kills just dropped its first official trailer. This movie comes out on October 15th of this year. The trailer looked fantastic. Wolf, did this trailer scare you a little bit? And are you excited when I force you to go see this movie?
So, yeah, this is one of the types of movies, the slashers, that I just don't get into too much.
Yeah.
And is it my understanding that the original Halloween from the 70s had just had a sequel in the last couple of years, technically, even though there's been movies in between?
Yes.
The 70s and today. And then this one is a direct sequel to the most recent one. Is that right?
Yeah, so I will break it down for you real quick. So the Halloween franchise, one of my favorites, also one of the most confusing as far as timelines go, because they've jumped back and forth, canceled sequels, but long story short, the only movies, this is essentially the third movie in the series if you count the original Halloween, the one that came out in 2018, and this one. Nothing else exists. Halloween H2O does not exist if you've seen that one. Yeah. LL Cool J.
Yes.
They just made it a little bit simpler by making it as complicated as possible. It just simplifies the story. I absolutely love the 2018 one. Written by Danny McBride, directed by David Gordon Green, who's well known for Eastbound and Bound, as well as Pineapple Express he directed. So really interesting tandem to be handling Halloween, and
Sure.
I'm very excited. This trailer is super spoilery. A lot of deaths in the trailer, so if you don't want anything spoiled, do not watch the trailer. I actually turned it off about halfway through just because, there's no way that they weren't giving away half the movie in this thing.
Sure.
So. And if they aren't, if it's possible that like this all is not giving anything away, then there's going to be the most deaths in this movie than I've ever seen.
I have to say, I did watch the entire trailer, having known nothing about since the first Halloween in the 70s. I've never watched anything but H2O, and I thought that was the end of it because he gets his head chopped off. I don't know how you come back from that, but to see like old Jamie Lee Curtis basically playing the same character from the 70s was very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
But Michael Myers, man, something about that mask and something about that face, it really terrifies the shit out of me. Like, I just cannot get into it. But what happens at the very beginning of this trailer, basically there's a huge house on fire and the firefighters are there. And Michael Myers just comes out of the fire like it's nothing and starts killing every firefighter. And it's just the way he's doing it is just so terrifying. Even the jaws of life that the firefighters are trying to use can't even hurt him. And like, I was literally shocked, and that kind of hooked me into the rest of the trailer. I am more prepared to go into this and watch this just because I feel like this is going to be a good movie. The way they've set it up, it's going to be your run of the mill as far as what happens, but who dies? Like, it showed them attacking a couple people but not quite killing them, like whether they live or die. Like there's so much complexity to this trailer.
Yeah, you'll have to
kind of had me hooked in a little bit. So.
You'll have to watch the 2018 one to know what's going on. That movie ends where this one begins, as you probably could have guessed, but
sure.
It's a fantastic movie. It's really well directed. There's a few shots in there that are some of my favorite scenes in any movie, specifically one that they don't do a camera cut. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. He just goes house to house, one singular take, no trickery or anything. It's one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a horror movie. So always a fan of that. But let's move into the top three. Talk about something I know you are 100% looking forward to. Jerry Seinfeld to direct and star in a Netflix movie, Unfrosted, about the invention of Pop-Tarts. Wolf, do you think that Seinfeld can make a good movie outside of his stand-up and the show Seinfeld? And just what are your thoughts on this overall? This is crazy.
Yeah, I don't know how many things would be needed for me to get into a movie theater or to watch something on Netflix. But if you say Seinfeld and Pop-Tart, basically consider me there.
Done.
Like, I'm in. It just sounds very, very interesting. And from a blurb I read about Jerry's actually saying something is that this is going to be like really true to the actual story of Pop-Tarts. And I'm like, was the Pop-Tart guy like in the mob or something? Like what? My mind goes in a billion directions with this. So very much looking forward to it. I do think he can make it funny. And obviously, like, he hasn't done much outside of Seinfeld or stand-up besides B-Movie. And B-Movie is actually pretty funny for being an animated movie. I was going to ask you,
has he done any live-action mainstream movies?
He says literally in his TV show on Netflix, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, people ask him that all the time. Hey, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? His answer is one of my favorite answers in the world, is that I just didn't want to. I just don't want to. He says that to all these other comedians who ask him. And then you think about it. Well, yeah, he made $1 billion with Seinfeld. So, like, he doesn't need to do anything. So the fact that we can still get content out of him is incredible. And it's not just reruns on TBS for Seinfeld. So, like, this one, piqued the interest right away. Cannot wait to see what they turn out, and I have a good feeling about it.
Yeah, it's going to be a surreal experience just to see him in an acting role, like not being a parody of himself, I'm assuming, and just
right.
stepping out of the character that he's played forever. It's going to be really hard for me to adjust, but I have a feeling after 5 or 10 minutes, it'll be a normal thing, and I think it will be really good. Worried about the Netflix part, but they're starting to hire the right people, that's for sure, for talent. And he's directing it, so I have a little more faith in it. Hopefully some cool cameos, too, we'll get from it.
I have a feeling we're going to see a litany of stand-up comedians and some of their like best acting roles that we might see, because I feel like he's going to be very serious with this as well.
Absolutely.
Could be good.
For sure. Let's go to the top 2, both superhero-centric, as we tend to be biased toward that genre. One of our favorites for sure, as I know a lot of people listening also feel that way. The first one comes to us from Marvel and Disney. The new Shang-Chi trailer and the Legend of the Ten Rings dropped. It gives us a bigger look at all these characters, as well as a look at the Abomination from the Incredible Hulk movie that has completely been just abandoned by Marvel, so it was cool to see him return. But what did you think of the trailer? And to give our shout out to Adam Thailand at the Movie Mania podcast, he said to me that this reminded him of Mortal Kombat, and almost the Mortal Kombat movie he wanted to see. So I just want to get your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, no, this trailer, again, I said it before when we saw the first trailer for this. I don't know anything about Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. I now know a little bit more about them because they actually show the Ten Rings in this one, so that was cool. But, yeah, it looks like the martial arts movie we were promised by Mortal Kombat coming back, but now it's actually going to be a Marvel-centered universe, and who wouldn't be happy to see one of the craziest characters of all time of any Marvel movie come back, the Abomination? Is it Tim Roth? That's the real big question. He's not listed on anything at this point.
Does it have to be if he's just going to be in that form?
If he's going to be that's fine, but it would be really cool. He's a great actor to see him come back in any form. But, the action looks great. It looks like they're filling in the story, just a good origin story. So we're seeing that next group of potential Avengers get their origin movies before they have a team up, which is what DC didn't do. So they're, again, keeping with the formula that works. I expect these guys to team up with the Eternals at some point, or with some of these newer like Miss Marvel, some of these other shows that are kind of coming out. But I'm excited about the future of the Marvel and Disney side of it, for sure.
Yeah, this one, I have high hopes for this now. I think it's a terrific trailer, and this movie just feels like whatever they were trying to do, they figured it out early on, and they nailed the tone. And it seems like something that Marvel is just getting really good at, especially since Phase 3. I mean, these movies I feel like their floor has become like an 8, and that's really exciting. And the fact that me and you both don't really know, I've never read any of these comics, has me really intrigued because I don't know the main points that they're going to usually hit when I do know the comics. So it's going to be all new to me and you. I'm more excited about this than the Eternals, mostly just by what I've seen. Eternals looks like it's going to take a much more serious and slow burn approach, which is totally fine. But this one looks like it's just going to be badass action, which I feel like I need a little bit of it this time. So looking forward to it. Let's move into the top story of the week, one that we are super excited for and only about a month away now. August 6th, Suicide Squad comes out. Just dropped the final trailer where it reveals a couple things we did not know, including that Idris Elba is playing Bloodsport, and he is actually in prison for shooting Superman with a kryptonite bullet. So final thoughts on this trailer. How many people are going to live in this movie, do you think?
First of all, the trailer, it looked to be very similar to the first trailer. So it was exposing some characters, some funny lines of dialogue, a little bit of action, kind of where they're headed, what their mission is. So right in the same line there. I'm still very intrigued. I want to hear King Shark say every line of dialogue 50 times over. And then I really want to get into what John Cena is going to be doing, because it's the last trailer and we got a butthole joke. So there's not much more wrong you can go with that. As far as the deaths, I'm guessing that maybe 3 characters live out this one. So
prediction?
It's going to be going to be a bloodbath. Prediction on the 3, it'll be Idris Elba's character King Shark, and then Weasel of all people. So the two.
Wow, Margot Robbie is going down.
I think so.
Okay.
This is her third movie. Joker, we don't know kind of what's happening with her and him, if he even exists in this universe. We don't even know that at this point. But
that's a bold take. I like it.
I think she might be done. I
think this movie's going to be hilarious, but I also think it's going to have some emotional weight to it. For that to happen, either Margot Robbie or Idris Elba has to go. I know John Cena has that TV series coming out, but it's also possible that is a prequel, and he does die in this, so there's no guarantee on where that's set. But assuming that they really like the character that much, I'm assuming he'll make it out. But I have a feeling that Idris Elba looks like he's going to sacrifice himself in this movie, probably for Margot Robbie, and I still just think that they see dollar signs on her, even though I think that I'd rather see her go do other things at this point. She's done a good job with the role, but they're really not going anywhere with it. I'm more interested in seeing her interact with Joker, and that's clearly not going to happen. So I think it's time for her to move on, and then 10 years down the road, have someone else take a crack at it with a new Joker. But any last thoughts before we move into something that we're a little upset about?
No, let's move on. Move on in.
So, in honor, we're going to see Fast 9 this week. We have it coming out. I know you sent me an article about Vin Diesel talking about The Rock, which we'll also get into. But today I stumbled upon another article where Vin Diesel says he's dying to do a Fast and Furious musical and use the talents that he has. He thinks he would be really good in a musical. He claims he's turned down multiple musicals in the past. Wolf, only one question for you. Why is this happening?
I literally am getting sick and tired of Fast and the Furious spin-off Why Is This Happening articles, but Vin Diesel apparently listens to our podcast and just can't wait to give us the next exciting piece of news.
Is he just trolling us at this point? I feel like he is.
I think he is. I have one question to the musical thing. What does Vin Diesel's singing voice sound like? Can anybody tell me? I've never heard it before, but I could tell you. It sucks. It sounds like Groot trying to sing, probably.
I feel like I've heard him sing in this movie Find Me Guilty where he plays the mob boss. It's not good. It's very gravelly. Yeah, it's basically Groot's voice. But tell me a little bit about that article you read with Vin Diesel and The Rock. Just sum it up for me. It was pretty entertaining.
As most people who are Fast and Furious fans know, at this point, there has been a riff in between The Rock and Vin Diesel building for some time, so much so that Hobbs and Shaw is a completely broken off piece from the Fast and Furious universe that The Rock is taking kind of on his own, and Vin Diesel's continuing with his. Apparently, when Vin Diesel and The Rock were shooting any of their scenes together in any of the previous Fast movies where they were together, Vin Diesel describes it as that he had to give The Rock tough love, in quotes, in order to get the most out of him in his role as Hobbs, an FBI super agent who can literally beat up anybody and is one of the toughest guys in the world. And look at him. I mean, who gives The Rock tough love besides Stone Cold Steve Austin in the 90s? That's really it. So, a little bit ridiculous. And I just can't believe, I can't wait for next week, honestly. Now, what's the next Fast article going to be? It's not going to be box office. It's going to be Vin Diesel wants 50 spinoffs about just his car or something ridiculous like that where you can't get enough. I don't understand. Why is this happening?
So I'll say again, I did not like Fast and Furious 6 or 7. I like some of the Paul Walker stuff, but I think it's not a very good movie. I enjoyed 8 a lot, mostly because of The Rock and Statham. And I was super excited for the spinoff because their interaction was so good. I think it's one of those things when you get 10 or 15 minutes spread out over a movie, it works. It doesn't work as its own 2-hour movie. And now I'm super bummed that they're not even in these movies anymore, which takes my interest level away even more. It's such a ridiculous thing, these two, and it's not just Vin Diesel. The Rock is also, very egotistical with this fight with Vin Diesel, and you get these two massive dudes, and neither wants to back down. I get it. I just don't understand because the only people that suffer are the fans of the franchise.
Yes, and we suffer a lot. We're getting some tough love ourselves from Vin Diesel because of all this BS.
That's what the musical is for.
Yeah, right. That's what it's called, actually. Tough Love, a Fast and Furious musical.
But hopefully they can all, hug and get back together by the barbecue for the Fast 11. So we shall see. I really, I'll probably end up loving Fast 9. That's just the way these things go. But let's move on to our main event of the week. Loki episode 3 aired last Wednesday, so we're a little bit behind on this one. But basically tells the story of Loki and the variant Sylvie going through time. They're trapped on a doomed moon that's about to be basically destroyed by something. What's falling on it?
It's the planet of the moon. Is
planet
apparently
of the moon.
falling into
Yes.
the moon, which is normally the other way around. So
it's confusing.
Take half a point off for that one, Disney.
But that's pretty much the gist of the episode, is they are trying to get off this rock. Wolf, what did you think of episode 3, and where do you stand with the series overall heading into the final 3 episodes?
Yes, episode 3, titled Lamentis. We're finding out that's the name of the planet they're actually on, Lamentis 1, in the year 2077. Kind of crazy. But overall, this is we've seen this with a couple other of the Marvel series so far, where we get into that meaty part of the season. A little bit of a filler episode, in my opinion. Not too exciting. Not too much, explained.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's basically Loki and the female Loki, who now identifies as Sylvie, trying to get off this world.
By the way, full spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen the episode, don't listen. We're going to talk about spoilers.
Yep.
So.
Goodbye. But then if you're still here, welcome back.
Hey.
Basically, they just go around this planet and have banter, and they talk about each other a little bit. Nothing didn't do too much for me. Overall.
Yeah, I would say
it's a severe drop from the first 2, which did a lot for me.
I think that the one thing I like that we had talked about for episode 1 is we find out why everyone looks human. These are actual variants that, like Loki, were variants in their own timeline, and then were plucked out and then turned into workers. I'm assuming had their memory erased, or it's somehow blocked so they can't remember the past. But that really does intrigue me a lot. It answers that question on why they look the way they do. Still have a question. There are 9 billion species in this world. Why is everyone there a human variant is a question that I hope gets answered. But intrigues me, especially with Owen Wilson's obsession with jet skis. Maybe we have that answer now as to why he is, maybe from a past life. But overall in the episode, I know a lot of people didn't like it. I'm just going to say I'm waiting to see what happens at this one. This is the ultimate episode where watching it now by itself as an independent episode, no, it didn't do a ton for me. But if the next episode ties things in perfectly to this episode, then this one could become essential viewing. But as of now, it feels like filler. But there's no way to know it's filler until later. We don't even know if what we're seeing is real. For the one part, you have 2 magicians possibly playing tricks on one another.
Yes.
One thing I did like was the final scene. I thought it was really well done. It's a singular cut too. There's no cut for the last 3 minutes of the show. And one of my issues with the show is why I like the ending. The set that they used at the end just looks super realistic. Like the buildings looked like they were actually interacting with it, whereas the wide shots of the planet looked very fake and CGI background to me, which is kind of funny. But overall, a good episode. I'm not crazy about the buddy cop team up aspect of it, and I hope we get away from that. Could have used some Owen Wilson here, though, for sure, right?
That's what the episode probably lacked the most, was interaction outside of these 2. We basically got almost none of that. But I agree with you 100% on what the timekeepers are, first of all. We still don't know anything really about them other than what we've been told by people who may not be who they say they are. But they may also be something else entirely, because who knows if Sylvie at this point is just lying to Loki to throw him off in some way. So, the episode, while not as good as the first 2, doesn't detract at all for how I feel about the series. And I think they will wrap it up pretty nicely. We're just uncovering details at this point. It's just like WandaVision episode 1. We got almost nothing outside of the I Love Lucy type of environment. And then more and more started to kind of unfold and get into that. So I see that they're doing that a little bit here. And I'm definitely very intrigued still, and I have no idea what's coming next. My hope for a character like Owen Wilson's Mobius is that he's from like the Civil War, and like he's still American and still a human being, so he knows all about Earth. But then he's reading a magazine and he sees this thing that can float across water, and he's like, "Oh my god, I gotta see that," or something, something along those lines. I feel like that would be really funny and
for sure,
and tie in really well with what it is. So
I'm sure the payoff for that will be fantastic. But I'm with you. There's so many ways this show could go, particularly as it relates to them working together. Mm-hmm. I think it'll be interesting to say the most thing that's interesting to me in this is going to be the reaction from Owen Wilson when Loki tells him that he's a variant. Will he tell him that she's lying, or will the variants turn against the TVA? I think that's the thing that I'm most intrigued about. I'm also intrigued about the splitting timeline that's diverging. Are those potentially all of the movies that are going to be coming out, as far as X-Men, or even going back to like the old X-Men movie? Like, that? I've seen some pictures of people interpreting it as that. So there's just clearly how the multiverse is going to start. So I don't expect them to fix all these branching timelines. I think this is going to be their explanation into all that. So I'm really excited to see where this goes for sure. But we shall see, as always. I'd say my biggest issue with the first two shows, I don't mind a little bit of filler, but when you're only doing 6 episodes, the filler really can hurt the show, because I felt the previous 2 shows wrapped up super quick. Mm-hmm. It was like they had so many things that they had to answer going into the final episode, and then the final episodes were so action-centric that they didn't wrap up a lot of the stuff that I felt that they built up to. So I'm really hopeful that this show avoids that, can get back on track this Wednesday.
For sure.
And we will have the review here next week with our Fast 9 review. But
sounds good. Yeah, absolutely.
Any last thoughts on this?
No, looking forward to this week, though.
Let's do it. So next week, Fast 9 review. We are also going to be ranking the Fast movies. Going to be exciting. Not our typical long ranking, but a rapid fire. Give you the Too Fast, Too Furious, quarter mile at a time, top 10 ranking. Hobbs and Shaw will be included. Spoiler alert, it will be Wolf's #1 movie of all time. But that's all I got. As usual, let us know in the comments what you thought of Loki, where you want to see the series to go. And next week will be our week where we read some comments. So a little extra long episode for you guys. But, Wolf, anything else?
That is it, my friend.
Alrighty, bye.
Bye, y'all.
Made for movies.